Thanks for the invitation, Mark. My boss gave me this job, who has worked with Glen for a number of years at Thorncross. Anastasia's our governor, so she's ended up giving me this job because she's on leave, which is what she normally does, by the way. So just to give it, a lot of the things you've just discussed there are in this small presentation, so I apologise for that because I'm thinking the same way as what you're thinking. I'm just trying to put a few more ideas and give you a bit more information about perceptions and judging, etc. and that sort of stuff. And then Glen will speak about disclosure legislation because he's more clued up on that. So anybody know where Styal is? Yeah? Most people? Right, it's just near Manchester Airport, a few hundred yards down the road from Quarrybank Mill, so that's where we're located. It's the one and only female prison in the northwest. We hold 485 women, and we've just had to increase that number in the last few weeks up to 492 because the female population is going through the roof, and that's all around the country. So we just have to, we can't lock them out, judges send them to jail, we have to find a bed for them. So we've increased it by 6 beds. Obviously we're discharging women every day, but more are coming in every day, so that's why, and this time of the year, our population will always increase. So as I've just said, I apologise if you've already answered some of these questions. It should work, yeah. So that's me. That's my official title. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at Styal. And my job entails a lot of things, and I'll show you a few more bits in a moment. But this part of it is communicating with organisations like yourself. We do work with schools, with some naughty young ladies from the schools to try to get them to think about what the consequences are of their actions. And I also speak to other groups during the evenings, which brings a little bit of money back for the prison for us. As well as the community engagement stuff that I do, I'm also a manager of about 4 or 5 areas within the prison. That strapline, Building Hopes, Changing Lives, came to us probably about 5-6 years ago from our governor at the time. And he puts that strapline on, and the governor that we've got now, she's adopted it as well. And we use that because if we can't build hope, we're not going to change anybody's life. Simple as that. A lot of our women that we have are damaged women. They are damaged, they come to prison damaged. We've got to try and fix them as best as we possibly can and then send them out, and hopefully they won't reoffend. So just bear that strap line in the back of your head because it comes into play a lot of times. So, me and Glen working, our function is reducing reoffending. They're the 4 prime areas that I'm responsible for as part of the Women's Centre. The Women's Centre is the hub of the jail. Everything comes down to the Women's Centre. Glen will confirm that. We're a very, very busy area. We have a lot of the women working for us. You know, and the better the woman, the more we will pay them and give them more key roles and responsibilities. But land-based activities, if you don't know, is basically gardening. All right, so I'm responsible in that area. I've got 70 women working for me in the summer, around about 50 in the winter. The laundry, we have our own laundry. We've got 9 women in there working. Recycling, it's a small area, but we have a company called Recycling Lives. I don't know if anybody have heard of those. Recycling Lives is a recycling company who are based in just out Preston near Chorley Way. They're involved in about 7 or 8 prisons now. One is at Styal. They pay us for our workshop. They bring broken flat screen televisions and computers, and the women dismantle all them because we scrap them, and then they can earn up to £50 a week, which Recycling Lives pay. So you as taxpayers are not paying them women's wages. That's one way of getting money back. So in all those areas, obviously we have risk assessments because we know what these women have done. To an extent, you don't know what they've done. You know, they might disclose it if you've got a volunteer, but we know exactly what they've done. But, you know, whether it be violence, self-harming, assault, children offences, you name it, we've got them all. And Styal holds women from fines all the way up to murderers. And if my memory serves me correctly, Styal holds the most female convicted murderers out of the female estate, probably around about 25 to 30. So we've got a big bunch. So obviously we have a lot of risk assessments that we do, and just like yourselves, if we don't think they're suitable for that job, we've got to move them women elsewhere. Obviously if we've got a sex offender, we wouldn't put them as a cleaner on the mother and baby unit, just like you wouldn't do. So we have to bear all these things in mind. This should work.
As they're doing those jobs, can they get that qualifications and things at the same time?
Yeah. So in a lot of the jobs, they can get qualifications. That's what the least we expect to send the women home is on a level 1 functional skills. The very least, because we have some women there who don't know how to read and write. So I'll give you an example of one woman that we had, come into jail, went out, silly what she was done really, 6 weeks sentence, goes back out, does something else, comes back, kept doing silly things. And every time she got notification from the police or the courts, she didn't attend. She couldn't read or write. So she was bound to keep getting nicked and sent back to jail, wasn't she? So we, although Grove, what's his name, MP? Gove, he told the prison service, right, the minimum that we're going to do is education. And Glen will confirm this, we've been doing it for years and years and years. It was nothing new. Every woman that comes through at our doors, they'll go to a progression board and we will send them to functional skills once they've done the diagnostic to try and get them up to level 1 at the very least. And if they don't, we're not going to find them another job because we can't give them a job if they can't read and write. Even if they're a cleaner, you've got to be able to read what says on the bottle. So that's our primary aim, is to get them to level 1 functional skills. So, managing the risk and perception. Come on, work for me. Yes. So you've already answered some of these questions, so I apologise for that. So how many, just a quick show of hands, have actually taken on any ex-offender or interviewed any ex-offender? Yeah. So yeah, just yeah, about 60-40. All right, that's great.
Can I ask one question? Has anybody, for the people who didn't put their hands up, have you ever met an ex-offender? Yeah. Who hasn't?
How do we know?
That's the question.
He says it on the forehead.
It's a friend.
Yeah.
Right. So how many have actually taken one on? I know some of you have already said. Yeah, again, it's not far off 50%. I didn't know what Mark was going to ask you, so obviously I put some of these questions. Why wouldn't you? You know, why would you not? If it's inappropriate, if the risk is too high, if you don't trust them, you're not prepared to give them a second chance. All these questions will crop up and they crop up again and again. And you probably asked yourselves all these questions just to try to make you a little bit more aware, really. So what are the risks? What would you say the risks are? Come on, I've got too long a delay on this. So, you would only be able to assess the risk once you know what the actual crime was that they committed, wouldn't you? It's obvious, you've got to say I'm a thief. I was sentenced to 6 months for stealing. You know what I mean? So that's, you're not going to do anything about that. If they don't tell you that, there's no risk. So once you know that, so if they tell you they're a thief, right, you think, well actually he's come, we'll give him an interview, he's done really well the interview. You don't trust him with your till. You know what I mean? So you would manage that, wouldn't you? And these are only very basic things, and I know it's a lot deeper. Again, once you've got all the information, then you can manage him or her, whatever their crime was. So, obviously, we go back to sex offenders, they wouldn't even get through the door. We know that. But somebody's committed a one-off crime and got into trouble, come to jail first time, lost their job, probably lost their family, right? But they paid the price, all the consequences have gone. Now, let's look at giving them another chance. And a lot of the people that we have, and again, sorry, it's come on a bit quick there, reasonable adjustments. So in your area where you work, you might think, can I take him on? Actually, I've got another job here, so I'm going to make some reasonable adjustments, they'll be all right. Might have him working part-time, might have him working with one of your other volunteers all the time. So just making some reasonable adjustments that suit your needs as well. Because you might be losing some really good people. You know, and that's something to think about. Again, risk assessment, safe system of work, you know, have things put in place ready for them. And that'll change all the time because it's like a tide, isn't it? As people come in, they move out, someone else will go, someone else will come, you readjust your safe system of work and your risk assessment to meet the people that you're taking on.
Can I just ask at that point, so obviously we're all low on staff because the charity's obviously without funding. So if does anybody that can't put a staff member in place to supervise somebody, would you normally have them in, if they were part of a group where they're not on their own having regulated activity, would that, do you do that in your role?
What, sorry?
So So if you haven't got staff there to supervise somebody who is an ex-offender, so if that's part of your risk assessment, if they were part of a group of volunteers, would that be sufficient in where you are?
Again, it would depend on the individual, wouldn't it, and what it would be,
Yeah.
whether you've got volunteers that you can trust to supervise that person. There are a lot of children volunteers, you see, as well. We take volunteers from 14 upwards, so it depends on the level of volunteers that you've got.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be something.
Just something else thrown out there, because you say about safe system work,
Yeah.
because we are all charities, there's not always a staff member there to do any supervise or anything, so just thrown out there, and it really does.
We have done it.
Increase
Yeah,
instead.
we have done it, yeah. It would be on an individual basis, but we have had situations where
Yeah.
we've had a volunteer who would volunteer within the drop-in where there would be a team of volunteers that wouldn't be on their own. But then I'd want to talk to that volunteer about letting, so even as volunteers we have a shift leader, so I'd want to talk to the volunteer about letting the shift leader know as well, so that they are supervised and not to be left on their own.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's worked.
Yeah.
I suppose after a certain period of time, that risk assessment will be revisited anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be reviewed anyway.
Yeah.
And then you can decide on how often you review them. Right. So I've assessed that situation based on the very basic information you've got as being low, because there's no reason to upgrade it until you've got all the information, what I was saying before. So you would treat an individual, be an ex-offender, that's the same as what you would who's not an ex-offender or is not declared an ex-offender, because you've not got the information to raise the risk to medium or high, have you? So initially, again, you might have different ways of looking at this in your organisation. So I put down the 3 Ps: perception, prejudging and prejudice. All right? Might all have different views about everything. That's the way we are, we're human beings. So perception. What is your perception and expectation as a manager from your volunteers? So you might have a perception in your head, if I take this ex-offender on, right, they're going to be violent. They're probably a sex offender. They might be a rapist. You might have this in your mindset, when in actual fact, you might get someone who's just not paid fines. You know what I mean? It might just be low-level crime. Somebody, again, who just needs a second chance. Somebody who's prepared to give this person opportunity and trust them. And that's one of the biggest things with ex-offenders, not being trusted again. And it's going to take a long time to build up trust. To lose someone's trust, it takes you years. Do you have any personal views on certain crimes? So I'll give you an example. We had a woman out in Wythenshawe, I can't remember the shop, it might have been a Sue Rider if there's one in Wythenshawe, I can't remember. But we had a woman working in there. The only person when we put somebody out on Rottle, and I'll explain that in a few minutes, when we put them out there, we only tell the manager that you've got an offender and what the crime is. There's only the manager that needs to know. All the other volunteers do not need to know. And we tell the woman, don't tell them that you're in custody at the moment. And if they say, where do you live? Just say, I live in Gatley, Wythenshawe, anywhere, you know, just think of a name, because they'll say, oh, I don't know where that is. No, so try to just give them a little bit of a story if questioned, all right? Or I've just moved in the area, I used to live in Swansea, and moved up here with my grandma. Anything to deflect it, so you don't tell them. That way it won't raise their suspicions, all right? It's only the manager that needs to know. But this particular woman was a drug dealer, okay? She'd done it for about 3 or 4 weeks working, perfectly all right, no issues. I think a relief manager come in or somebody stepped in while he was on holiday. She found out, because obviously that manager's told the relief manager, you've got Julie who's here from Styal. Oh, I can't be doing with drug dealers. I'm not having her. Get her on, get rid of her on the phone to us. I hate drug dealers. So straight away, that woman who was doing really well, because of this personal view about drug dealers, we now had to take her out. And that's what we always say, if you have a problem, we will take them out straight away to avoid any other problems. But that's a personal thing with her. Again, her perception, her personal views has probably cost her, or that Sue Ryder, a decent woman working there just because of her personal views. Again, just something to consider. Are you blinkered? Have you just got this perception, you're not prepared to open your eyes that actually this particular person might benefit our organisation as a volunteer. But just because they're a criminal, we're not going to give them a chance. Why should I? Again, personalities. I've said it 2 or 3 times now, will you give someone a second chance? And that's what a lot of them are asking for. I can't get a job, I'm struggling to get work, I keep applying for voluntary jobs, I keep getting knocked back, nobody will give me a second chance. So what do? Do we throw them on the scrap heap and go on universal credit? No. You get some amazing, I'm glad I'll tell you, some amazing guys from Thorncross and Risley who he's worked with. Some of the women that we have, you know, have gone on to great and better things. We've never seen them again. That's the best thing they can do with us, is I always say, good luck, hope we never see it again. If I don't see them again, then it's a success, isn't it? Prejudging. Come on. Are you prejudging a person based on that tick in the box? So if they've declared that they've committed an offence, and Glen will talk more about that because he knows more about it than me, because he's put that tick in the box, are you saying, forget them, discard them? We've got 2 positions here, there's 10 people, we'll get rid of them, we have to look at the other 8, just because of the tick in the box. Prejudgment. It might be, right, well, you're scared of taking somebody on, but you might have, as you said, you've had experiences with people. They're not all going to be great people, right? We know they've committed a crime, but one bad experience shouldn't deter you from giving somebody else a chance. You know, it's not like buying a car. I'm not going to buy another Volvo because the last one was crap. We're talking of human beings, changing lives, building hope and changing lives. Are you judgmental, which I've already spoke about a little bit? Are you judging a person for a certain crime? You know, we had a woman, I have to be careful of this because it's not too far away. No, I better not tell you that story, I'll think about it. It's too local to this area, so I better miss that one. I'll try and think of another one. But why should you give them a chance? What's the benefits to you? Your organisation, what are the benefits? What's the benefits to you as a manager if I give someone a chance who's an ex-offender? Right? Well, the benefits are you've got another member of staff working for you. You might have 4, 5, 10 ex-offenders. So you've got them all. Whereas if you're not considering them, you might only get 1 or 2 people. I mean, I don't know, I don't have to take, but we do take volunteers, believe it or not, at Styal. Not any ex-offenders, because we've got 480 of them, so we can pick them. But apart from the personal benefits to you as a manager, what are the benefits to the organisation as well? And again, Glen will talk about that, the big companies who give ex-offenders a chance. So the PR from that is massive, especially big companies. Opportunity and advantages. Again, you're giving someone a chance to build their life and change it. They've got hope. Keep striving for it, keep banging on about it. You've got someone who's open and transparent. So if they tick the box and you give them the interview, you ask them, okay, you said you've been in custody, how many times, what have you done, etc., etc. They're open. They're telling you, give me a chance. I've been in jail 4 times for stealing, I want to change my life around. What have you got to lose? You know, what's the worst thing they can do? Not turn up for work. They might steal off you, but the other person who's not been in custody might steal from you. You know what I mean? So, and again, if they're on probation, you've got that tool as well. If they commit another crime whilst on the probation, or if they're out on licence, and any person who commits a crime now with a 12-month sentence, if they breach their licence any time during that 12 month, will be going back into custody. So it might be on the 11th month, they'll send them back for 4 more weeks. So they've got a lot more to lose. Again, you're going to change someone's life. The biggest one there is trust. And that's what they're asking. Trust me, I'll do you a good job. If they don't, they don't. You can get Tommy Smith come and fit a kitchen for you next week. You trust him to do a good job. But if you asked your sister-in-law or somebody else, would you have had him? Wouldn't touch him with a barge pole if you told me. Made a right mess of my kitchen. So it's a trust thing, it's building. Again, you might get an excellent member of staff. I think a lot of your organisations probably are shops and that sort of stuff, aren't they? Retail. You might get somebody who's been in the retail industry, who's the ex-offender. Might have been a shop manager themselves. Might know more than what you know. until you delve into it and find this out. We have a good skills base. At Styal we have the Clink restaurant, I don't know if you've heard of that. we train women in there up to level 2 and some will do on to level 3 MVQs in hospitality and catering. Might be something you need. You might have a small cafe or a kitchen in your area. Benefits to you. Again, and it'll increase your number of volunteers, which is obviously what I'm sure you'll all put your hand up if I ask you if you're struggling for them, aren't you? And again, you may help the person integrate back into the community and reduce the possibility of re-offending. You can take pride in the part that you've played because you've built some hope and you're going to change that person's life. They might only stay with you for a few months, they might stay with you for a few years. But by you giving them a chance, you will see, and Glen will confirm this, you can see prisoners' self-esteem and confidence building. We see it at work. Pull them out in the Clink restaurant, it's outside the gate. Customers come in, members of the public come in every day. We see women out there are absolutely petrified. And they see it's overwhelming to them. They're now dealing, if you want for another term, normal people. They're not in an environment in a prison, they're in a restaurant. There's no uniforms apart from the uniform they wear in the Clink, which is a waitress's uniform. So that barrier has been broke down. So we see their self-esteem and confidence build up and it changes massively. Within a day, a week, a month or so, you'll see a totally difference in that woman. So it's building that self-esteem up, building their confidence and trusting them to do a good job. Because we trust them with money out there. They've got a till, they've got to take the money off the customers. We trust them to do that. We trust them to pick up the phone and take orders. Don't do that in the jail, but we're working on that to build them up as well. So, as it says there, the prison service will not do something that we won't do ourselves, or ask you to do something we won't do ourselves. We're not going to ask you to take ex-offenders on, or rottle, which I'll go into in a minute, if we wouldn't do it ourselves. Yvonne's story. I mentioned Recycling Lives, private company that we're working with. So we get their money comes in. Yvonne is a mature woman, between 40, 45, that sort of age. She was convicted for supplying Class A drugs 8 years ago, something like that. I think she got either 4-year sentence or just under, around about 4-year sentence. Gets sentenced to Styal. Totally different environment. Never done it before, never been in prison before, maybe not got caught, I don't know, but never been in prison before. She comes to Styal and eventually she gets released. She's a mother of 2. She gets a job with Recycling Lives out up there in Chorley. She does such an amazing job. As their network grows in prisons with all their recycling, what they do, the managing director approached me and said, would your governor take Yvonne in the new workshop? I said, absolutely. I knew she would. I didn't even have to consider it. So I approached the governor. She said yes, but obviously we have to go through the DBS, which we know she's going to fail, because she's been in for such a serious crime in such a short period of time when we applied for it. Prison Services Risk Assessment said she will fail, but the governor, ultimately, she takes the hit. She takes that risk. So we have to manage Yvonne, because now Yvonne is working for us full time. She wears the keys, she carries the radio, she lets prisoners in and out on the unit. She's responsible like any other member of staff for those prisoners. She's a role model for the other women. And our workshop, Glen's been in it, they're breaking up flat screen tellies, they're breaking up computers, smashing them to bits, but it's probably one of the quietest workshops you could come into with that type of environment. Because they just get on with it, they're not screaming and shouting at each other, taking their anger out, if you want, on the flat screen tellies, which we don't mind because you can want them to break them anyway. No matter if they drop them. Because everything on a telly and a PC is recyclable, every item on it. That's changed Yvonne's life. Totally changed her life. She's won awards for it. There's pictures all over the workshop, what they promote her. She's an amazing woman, what she did, because she had a lot to overcome. Not only with the other women, some of them who she knew when she was inside, but with the staff. And the staff was the biggest barrier to her. Because the officers, why she got keys? He was locking up 4 years ago. couldn't get their head around it. But she's proved them wrong. So I'm saying we wouldn't ask you to do what we won't do ourselves. So I don't know if anyone knows what ROTL is, release on temporary licence. So like you was asking for more help at your hospice, we're the only female prison in the northwest. So we stretch to the north of Cumbria, down to the south of Staffordshire, I think it will cover, certainly south of Cheshire anyway. But there are a number of other jails. I think there's 11 jails in the northwest. Thorncross is the nearest one to here, it's open mail. And we put men and women out in the community. And we will look for working with community groups, shops, organisations. Sue Rider's a big one, Blue Cross is another one. I'm trying to think of the other ones that we do. Run any off of me. RSPCA, any voluntary organisation, if they want some help and we can get a woman out to you, we will. Now, usually we will send them out for 3 months, where they will work for you free of charge. Once they've worked for 3 months, we'll look, and I'm not saying to the voluntary sector, we would look to get in a paid employment. Now, some voluntary sectors will say, yeah, actually, we could take somebody on full time and pay them the minimum wage, even though they're still in custody. But if you couldn't, then we wouldn't take her away and say, that's it, 3 months down the line. She would just continue working for it. It may be for 6 months, 12 months, or whenever she gets released. So it's just an option. We do have women that will go out on licence, who will go straight into employment after a few weeks induction. I think it's 2-3 weeks now, I'm not sure. Where we will pay them as a prison, and then they'll go on to the minimum wage. Again, that saves us. Part of that money, what they get, 40% will go back into victim awareness. So they're not making a fortune, where they actually still paying something. And the same in the voluntary sector. We encourage people to go into the voluntary sector on licence because they're putting something back into the community as well. Is there any questions on any of that?
If anybody wanted to access that, to have prisoners out on ROTL, do they do that through you, or?
Yeah, I can give people my cards and give us a shout. I mean, at the moment, I think we've got, let me think, our first port of call, unfortunately now, success is sometimes bites you on the backside, doesn't it, when you're successful. We have 22 women working in the clink. So they are classed as ROTLed because they're outside the jail, even though it's only from here across the road to where it is. But we've actually let them out of the jail to go and work in there. So that's primarily because it's a business, we have to send the women there to keep the business ticking over, bringing money in and serve the customers. But I've got 15 other women that's out working in the community. I think there's 7 of us actually on full paid minimum wage. Premier Inn is taking one, Max Spielman takes one. Timpsons, we used to work with Timpsons quite a lot. They're the biggest employer of ex-offenders, I think 120 roughly around the country. And they've had some amazing staff and put people back on the straight and narrow, you know, by giving them that chance.
If they were coming from, say, Styal
Yeah.
to this area, how does that work with transport for them?
We get them a taxi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the prison service will pay for a taxi to get them there and back, because on licence there's only so many hours. So
Yeah.
say you finished at 4 o'clock, we usually extend their licence to say 5 or 6 o'clock because we know what traffic's like and taxis getting there. If they was on minimum wage, they would pay for their own transport out of what's left once you've had the 40% deducted. So that could be a big burden on them, but again, they don't have a problem with that. They're getting out of the jail, they're getting back into a bit of normality and working and building that work ethic back into it.
What about evening type stuff though? It's like, we have like social groups in the evenings.
Yeah.
I don't know, would that be something?
No, it's not, that's not a problem. All we would do is assess that, what if any risks are to them, and then just extend the licence. So we had a woman who worked at, it's a big restaurant in Burnley, Blackburn I should say. Can't think of the name of it. We actually got this woman who was doing really well in the clink. She just had natural ability and just needed some training with cooking. Somebody came to the clink, a chef from this big hotel. Driving me mad now trying to think of this. Anyway, they offered an apprenticeship. So it's a 100-mile round trip. We couldn't sustain doing that, but they were prepared to pay for it. And she done an amazing job and got a job with them, got the apprenticeship with it. Once they put her on the wage bill, then she was starting to use her own car and pay for her own petrol. So, and they were working shifts like any other restaurant would. So she had, I think we said we had to have her back in the jail for 10 o'clock. So she could work.
Like a couple of hours doing a social.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
really-
I mean, we've had to have some women go to night school, you know, and they've had to stay out longer than probably normally would. But as long as we know that, it's not a problem, you know. And we give the woman a mobile phone anyway, which will have just 2 numbers on it. Usually 999 in a prison. Because that's all they're going to need, because we don't want them phoning all the mates up. So it's just an emergency mobile phone, just in case, because some are lone women, so that's a bit of the risk we have to take as well, and the risk assess that. So the way of doing it is giving them a mobile phone.
So Eddie, if we are interested in working with you, could we come and speak to you, describe what the business is, and work out something between us?
Yeah, I'll give you a card, just get in touch, bring you into the jail, have a look round and see what we can do. You know, what I can't do is guarantee,
No.
because we have it at HDC, which is commonly known as TAG, and obviously to Rottle. Sometimes they work very closely together, sometimes they overlap. It's ridiculous at times, it pans out, isn't it? You can say, well, you're Rottle eligible, go, all right, get around Rottle, well, she's HDC on Wednesday. What's the point of getting her Rottled? Because she's going to go home with HDC if it's approved. So but we can do it, but what we can't do is guarantee, because these applications, the woman has to make the application, or the male, and then it goes in front of the board, and they will assess it before they do it. So it's hard to say how long you would get them. If it's Rottle, then you might get them for a month. If it's HDC, we're a bit up in the air, because if they get it approved, they'll just go, because they're going home in a couple of days' time with a tag on their ankle. But I'll give you a card afterwards and just give us a shout. But I can't say I'll get you somebody out in 2 weeks' time, definitely. Do you know what I mean? I wish we could, but the rules on getting them out are very tight. They should be. I personally think they should be gender specific. Pro rata, women don't abscond as much as men do, because of the family connection and single mums and the kids, and get back to the family unit where young guys, don't really give a toss. They'll just do it for the fun of it. They'll get out and they'll go and have a few drinks, and that's it, and they won't think about it and go back to jail. But women, you know, in the last 2.5 years we've had the open house outside, there's only one woman not come back on time. And she came back the day after, you know, so it can work for you. But I know you're going to get more applicants.
And you would be looking at placing people that are looking at moving into that area. So like we probably have that social group working with vulnerable.
Well, that would be part of the risk assessment. So I wouldn't say we're going to send Julie Smith, for argument's sake, to work in Congleton if her crime was committed in Congleton, the victims were in Congleton. You know what I mean? So we wouldn't do that.
I mean,
But-
they're on the path, they want to go somewhere, they want to do something with their life. So you'd be looking at targeting organisations where
Yeah.
they build those skills.
So, I mean, a good one for that is Premier Inn. So if we put a woman out at Premier Inn at the airport who lives in Carlisle, there might be a vacancy up there when she gets released to go and work at Premier Inn there. She'll go for the interview process, obviously. But at least they'll know somebody. She's just transferring, isn't she, really?
Yeah.
You're
So,
thinking about if
I'm
someone
saying-
there
I'm
maybe
thinking-
they can carry on with the role.
Yeah, not just that, or like you want somebody that wants to go into childcare. If I'd
Yeah.
like to have done something which is not completely unrelated. With us, most of our roles are in support type roles. So it would be that they'd obviously be building the skills and things with us. We wouldn't be offering paid work.
yeah, I mean, you don't have to offer them paid work.
It would
Yeah.
be then opening up
That's a
skill
bonus.
to move on into that
Yeah.
area.
That's a bonus. If they get paid work out of it, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
You know, but we encourage them to go into voluntary work. We have a placement in Altrincham Family Centre, and we've had women who are just working on a Thursdays and Fridays doing admin work. You know, that's all they do. She never ever got paid employment there because they couldn't afford it. Like yourselves, you can't afford to take staff, and otherwise you wouldn't be asking for volunteers, would you? You know, so that's not an issue to us. Anything else? I will hand you over to the other partnership out of the Brothers Grimm.
Good afternoon. My name's Glen. I work for Shelter. Just a bit of background about me. I was a prison officer for 25 years. I had to take medical retirement because of arthritis in my back. However, I was fortunate enough to get a job with Shelter as a peer support officer in prison. So I work in 3 prisons. I work in Styal, Risley, Thorncross. So I've got a men's open jail, men's closed jail and a female jail. all totally different, all with the same issues, apart from one. They are all offenders, or will be ex-offenders. 1 in 4 people in this country, approximately, are an ex-offender. So when I asked the question before, have you ever met one, you probably have and you don't know. My role as a peer support officer for Shelter is to train prisoners to be peer mentors for Shelter. I also run, but there's not enough work there for me to fulfil the week. Because once I've trained them, I only need to support them. So I run employment workshops and preparing prisoners how to move on when they get released into the workplace. Some people have been to prison that long that they've never seen a mobile phone, they've never applied for a job online, so things have changed. And they have no confidence whatsoever. They also have this belief that nobody else will give them a chance. Now, I cannot offer them a job. What I can offer them is hope. The Rehabilitation Act in 1974 is designed really to make it lawful for ex-offenders at certain points not to disclose a criminal record once it's become spent. I don't know if you're aware of the time frame, so I'll read this to make sure that I get this correct. Anybody serving over a 4-year sentence, their offence will never become spent. So that means if they are asked when they go for a job, do you have any unspent convictions? By law, they must disclose. If they don't disclose, they are committing fraud. If somebody serves a sentence of more than 30 months and up to 4 years, equal to 4 years, it's the length of the sentence plus 7 years. Once that time period has passed, if they are asked the question, do you have any unspent convictions, they can lawfully say, no, I don't. Anybody serving 6 months and up to 30 months, same applies, but the time frame is slightly different. It is sentence plus 4 years. Then anybody serving up to 6 months, it's sentence plus 2 years. That's when they can lawfully say, I have no unspent convictions. Every employer in the country is entitled by law to do a basic check, and that basic check will only show unspent convictions. Right, so once they become spent, it won't show. Certain areas of employment, they're entitled to do stronger checks. So you've got your basic, standard, enhanced, and you have your enhanced and barred. Somebody mentioned the barred section before. It is actually illegal for somebody to apply for the job if they are on that barred list. It's actually illegal for an employer to employ somebody who's on that barred list. Has anybody ever done a DBS check? What does it show? When you get a DBS, if you do a DBS check on a client,
Yeah.
what comes back?
They get their certificate now. I just get an email that says whether it's contains information or doesn't, and then it's just tick boxes about. I've not ever seen one with benefit fraud on it.
Okay. So basically, it'll show you crime, sentence.
Yeah.
Does it tell you anything else about that person?
It used to include like inspectors' comments or something. I think it's the inspector, I can't remember. If there's something the police know about them that maybe isn't on the offence. I don't know whether
that would be an enhanced check.
Enhanced check.
Right, an enhanced check, the police can become, they don't always, but they can become involved. They can start to give you, talk to you about stuff that maybe could went to court and were found not guilty.
That was it, yeah.
So it's not an offence, but they found not guilty, but the police believe that you need to be aware of this type of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it changed, because when we used to do the CRB checks, we used to get the certificates
Yeah,
as an organisation, so we could see exactly. Now we just get an email to say if there's something on there or not, and then the person has to show us
you
their
that,
certificate.
yeah.
So if they choose not to, then they can just walk away from the role.
Yeah, they have to give permission, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but you're still aware that they've committed what the offence was and what the sentence was. Well, I said earlier on, my mission really is to give prisoners hope. Because if you put yourself in their shoes, right, and you were going for a job, what would you be frightened of? Your disclosure. Right? So I always say to the prisoners, do not let anybody make a decision on you on a piece of paper. what you need to understand, and this will help you with your risk assessments, you need to understand what made them make that decision. Anybody in this room here could commit a crime. I could drive home tonight, drive a bit quick, a kid walks out in front of me, I kill the child, I'm in prison. I've not meant to do it. The majority of prisoners have had an influence in their life that's led up to them committing the offence. So this is the way that I try to encourage them to disclose, right? Because the law says that you must disclose. I don't tell them to disclose, it's their choice, right? There's two ways to disclose, there's verbal and there's written. The advice I give them is that you would disclose verbally. Why do you think that would be?
So they can explain the kind of situation around that and
What do you get when you speak to somebody? What can you read?
The body language.
The body language.
Yeah.
You can see if it's more genuine, you know. They're still encouraged to write a disclosure letter as evidence of what they've spoken about. So that meant an employer or somebody from the voluntary sector couldn't turn around and later on and said, you've never told me about this. Well, actually I did, and there's the evidence. So what you need to understand, this is what I tell the people, and I'll give an example from a young man this morning in Thorncross, because that's where to be. What you need to be looking at is, what did he do? What did they do? Why, how long did they get? But why did they do it? What was the influences in their life leading up to them making that decision? Because we can all make daft decisions, can't we? Every one of us in this room can make a stupid decision. I've made plenty in my life that I do regret, but it's not led to a criminal offence. They could have done when I was younger. So you need to understand what led to it. Now, it could be peer pressure, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be a bereavement, a breakup of a marriage, unemployment, poor problem-solving skills, very impulsive when they were younger. Many, many reasons, but you need to understand that. What raised their level of risk for offending. Then you need to be thinking about what have they done to reduce that risk. So if you think about it, they're in prison now, or they've been to prison. So you need to be thinking about asking them questions. What did you do to reduce that risk? So if you had a drug problem, have you been on any courses to help you with that? Alcohol, problem-solving skills courses. Went to prison with no qualifications. A lot of people do that. A lot of people come out with a list as long as there are. They've used the time wisely. So they're coming out the better educated. Have they supported people while they've been in there? They've shown a compassionate care inside. Because you've got listeners, you have listening schemes in prisons, peer mentors. They're there to support the vulnerable prisoners. Then you need to be looking at, really, what's in their life now that is different than was there before. An example of that could be some men go to prison and the partners were pregnant when they were sent down. Whilst they've been in prison, the partner's given birth. Now for some men, or not for the women, but for some men, they've missed the birth. They've missed being able to be there at night to support the partner. They've missed the first smile, they've missed the first crawl, they've missed the first steps. They've missed the first day of school, some men. And when they get out, they want to be a role model to that child. They don't want to be going to being that negative person that they were before they went to prison. The people do change. An example this morning, got a young man come to me, he said, I need some help on disclosure. I don't know how to do it. He's out in a couple of weeks. And as Eddie mentioned before about Rottles, he's been on a home leave, and while he's been on home leave, he's applied for a job. Well, he's put his details out on Indeed. An employer's contacted him. His background sales. So he's contacted him, he's had a chat with him, he said, right, 3 weeks time I want you to come along and have an interview. And it's quite a high paid job this, and he's panicking now. And he's saying to me, what I'm thinking of doing is actually going along, having the interview, I'm not going to tick any boxes. He said, then I'm going to ring him up after the interview and say, can I have a 10-minute chat with you? Now, it's not for me to say, don't do that. What I had to do was put what the alternative thoughts that the employer might have. Which, one, the employer might be fine with that. He might understand why he was nervous. But he also might think, I think somebody mentioned it earlier on, if they're not honest to open up front at that beginning, has he really changed? So I had to put all these alternatives to him, and he's gone away and make his own decision now. Would I employ that lad? Yes, I would. Because I've met him on more than one occasion. I've seen him. I've seen the other side of him, not the headline figures that you would look if you went into Mr. Google. That's my advice as well. Never go into Mr. Google, because it's like reading the Sun. It doesn't make it true. You're not looking at the picture. So my advice to anybody who wants to employ ex-offenders is to speak to them, ask them questions, because they will be nervous. I could tell them every day for 10 weeks how to disclose. But when they're sat in front of somebody who's interviewing them, that will go out the window. They will miss things out, not on purpose, just because they've forgotten or they're panicking. You need to encourage them to tell them their life story, to tell you their life story. 25 years in the prison service, 2 years in for shelters, 27 years in total working with offenders. When I first joined the job, I walked into that first gate. All the preconceived conceptions that a lot of people have about offenders. Uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable the first day I walked in. I was probably uncomfortable for 12 months until I found my feet. Then you soon realise that they are human beings. That's what we are. And that's what they are. They're just human beings who've made a decision that a lot of them regret. Would they employ every one of them? Probably not. But would they employ everybody out there? Probably not. There's a lot of people in prison with a skill set that needs to be used. I encourage people to apply to work for voluntary agencies or charity work whilst they're looking for work, because it gives them something for the CV. It gives them work experience for some people. Some people have never had a job. So they need to gain experience. They need to know how to socialise with people. It gives you something as well. Another example, I've had 3 men, and these are mature men, at Thorncross, all come from professional backgrounds, every one of them. Never thought they'd end up in prison. They're released now. They came to me about 2 years ago and they said to me, what we'd like to do, Glen, is to do something around about self-employment. A lot brighter than me, these men. And they put together an 8-week package that they wanted to run with other prisoners who wanted to be self-employed but didn't know how to do it. So I went to the governor, asked his permission in Thorncross, because I had to run it on an evening. And he was all for that. So we ran that, and we ran about 5 different courses in total before they were released. They're coming back into Thorncross next year to run it on an evening as volunteers. They wanted to give something back. That's just an example of the type of people who are in prison, who will be an asset to any organisation. But they've got to be given the opportunities. Does anybody have any questions? No? No?
You don't know me as quiet.
I'm passionate about giving ex-offenders a chance. Because if we don't give them a chance, what's likely to happen?
They're going to re-offend.
Yeah, you're going to have this vicious circle that goes round and round. I think it was Jack Straw many years ago said the easiest way to stop re-offending is to give somebody a job. Now I know you're not giving them jobs, but you could help them along that path. You could give them skills, you could give them confidence. The self-esteem has been shot. There was do you know the IPP, have you heard of the IPP system, prisoners, indeterminate public protection sentences? What? A young lad, about 5 years ago, maybe longer, yeah, probably about 5 years ago at Thorncross, I won't name his name, but he was on one of these sentences, indeterminate sentence. So say the minimum sentence was 2 years, doesn't guarantee he was going to get out after 2 years. He could be in 10 years later. Depends on his risk. Never worked in his life, this lad. And he was one of my peer, because I run a peer mentoring scheme at Thorncross. And he was one of my mentors. And we got him a workout with a charity in St Helens, and he was in the warehouse. So I used to go visit all the lads on the workouts. And I popped in one day. It was a check, but it was also a supportive visit as well. I went to see how he's doing. The people who were running the warehouse were made up with him. I walked around the corner, could see him busily working away with the 2 other men. I had a little chat with him, then I was leaving. As I was leaving, he said, "Glen, can I have a word?" And he come running over to me, he said, "This has proven to me that I can work." He said, because before I come to prison, I'd applied for that many jobs and got that many knockbacks. I thought I wasn't as good as anybody else. He said, "Now I know I am." That's what working for voluntary agencies, the charities, can do for somebody. Okay.
Thank you very much.